Hi, I am Gershia Mahabir. I am a writer and I'm also the founder of a local open mic called Poetry and Prose. I'm currently working on a collection and I'm actually working with another poet that's published quite a bit. The hardest thing for me is to sit down and do my own work because, you know, then it just becomes a me and myself and I kind of argument in my head of what I need to keep in, what I need to take out. So I wanted to create a world where AI was so helpful that it was hard to just look at it as something evil that should be thrown out completely.
Would you say you're more critical of your own work?
Definitely. I think everyone is because it's yours and you always feel like you could be better or say something better.
So how do you
So
know when
yeah,
it's done? What do you look for in
it's
your
everyone.
work? Yeah, I
I
mean, like you write something and you're saying, okay, I can finish editing now, or that's why you need an editor to interject and say, yeah.
for me, I've met authors that say to them that have told me I write one shot and that's it. I don't look at it again. What I've written is what I publish. And then I've met authors that actually have a mentor and they go through this process of back and forth with their work.
Mm.
So it really depends on what type of a writer you are and
Mm.
your journey, because everyone has their own journey. For
And what's
me,
your process?
I am one of those that go back and forth. I write, and I've realized that when I write, I I'll write for months, or I may write for years, or I may write when I'm going through something, and then my writing begins to change. And I know that I'm done with that set. And there are a lot of work that I have to let my work breathe.
Yeah.
So I need to put it down and continue on with something else and then pick it up again
Yeah.
because I
So
need that distance from it.
definitely, I do that too. So when you look back at your work, you can literally kind of trace your personal growth because a bit of you is captured in everything that you do.
Certainly. And there are points where you go back and you read your work and you're like, did I write that?
In terms of it's
What
really
writer?
good because you're so impressed.
Not necessarily impressed, just you write something and you put it down. And then when you pick it up again, it's a different voice.
Yeah, it sounds like a
And
whole different person. Like, who's that?
yeah,
Who's that woman? Who's
yes,
she?
exactly. Yep.
Mhm. So how would you
So
say how would you describe your own personal growth and change when you look back at your work? What does it say about your growth as a person?
as a person, I think it took because I've been writing since I was young. So I'm able to see myself kind of like move through like teenagehood and a lot of angst into someone that has a more global view of the outside world. So yeah.
Has your techniques changed in terms of the devices that you use? Are you more daring and experimental now than before?
I think techniques change because I've learned more. So workshopping and um reading a lot more poetry, different types of poetry, it would change. So initially when I started, it was just like free, freelance, you're just writing freehand, freestyle. And then you start to play around with certain techniques. There's a point in high school I wrote sonnets. I don't do that anymore. But I think as you begin to learn different techniques and stuff, you tend to want to play around with it. And something we do at Poetry Plurals on Zoom is that we do like writing prompts. So it gives you a chance to play a little bit with different
Do,
styles.
do you have a favorite piece that you've written?
No,
You don't?
I don't have a favorite piece
Everything
that
is
I've written.
tied for first
I can
place. Everything is
not for
tied.
everything is definitely isn't tied for first place, but
Definitely.
I have pieces that I like for different times.
Okay, makes
So
sense.
for this collection, I had um I wrote 2 short stories and some poetry. And
Can you read one of
there,
them? One of your own pieces?
I certainly can. I'll read 2. So
Okay.
I'll read one that's a bit serious and one that's a bit more playful. This one is called Gopal Luck is Seepaw Luck. She smiled that day. Tears were shed freely. Fighting back tears. Families cling to each other. Her 5-year-old son played unaware. Children paraded emotional goodbyes. Excited, she clung to his hand, clinging to each other. Ice floors mirrored. Ice questioned. Families in Hawaiian tops. Reporters witness. Ports plugged businessmen laptops and teenagers' games. Lawyers flocked to airports, plugging in laptops, makeshift workstations. Flashes of sunshine, cameras flash, chatter of passengers, protesters shout. Over 2 million worlds shattered. Worlds shattered, mothers weep. Voiceless, the world slept. International news. Nations watch. If it does not make news, did it not happen? It will make news. This is happening. And this piece was inspired when they were doing a mass deportation in the US, and a lot of lawyers and everyone went to the airport to help. And I thought, because I saw the news coverage on it, and I just thought, what about, because they deport families every day. Every day people are broken up. Families are broken up. So it's like, what happened to the family like the day before this major crisis hit? How did they feel? And that's what it's supposed to be read in 2 different voices. This one is about, it's just a little more silly, and it's just my observation. Lessons at 6 years old. The 40-year-old divorcee teases hostess's daughter with unicorn backpack. You missing your boyfriend? He not my boyfriend, but he a boy, and you a friend, so he your boyfriend. I already have a boyfriend in America. Well, you can have more than one friend, so you can have more than one boyfriend. Mother and coworker laugh at wrapping innocence around logic. But he, a boy or a man, thinking hard on her 30-year-old coloring book playmates. Well then, he a man, nah, let we stop. The woman, as serious as a ring made from a paper napkin, absent-mindedly twisted and left on the table. Laughter at the office old talk, skylark, and root joke. So, if you want to go deep with it, you can, and then it gets a little sad. But I wanted to capture it because to me, it just spoke so much of unspoken culture, and that you see play out sometimes.
What inspired you to write that piece?
Um, it was a scene that played out, and I wanted to capture it. While it was something that I looked at and I kind of assessed, it was also, I just felt like it was, we have these songs and these calypsos that you don't get what it means when you're a child, and it just reminded me of that.
What is it about poetry that attracts you to that style as opposed to prose or like short stories or screenplay? What is it about poetry for you?
Poetry for me was something that I could capture. I can capture without going in depth. I don't have to explain. Um, I I don't have to create a character or a situation. I could just say it, and I love being able to write about one thing and not have the world know it.
What I love about your writing is that even though it's poetry, you get that the visual effects, and it always seems as though it's multiple views of different characters speaking. So it's kind of like prose, like to me. Would you?
Okay, you asked me about AI. We actually had um, an AI writing prompt in my group, and two of the pieces made its way into our anthology. So when you asked about AI, the prompt was, it is in the future, AI has taken over. There are no writers, and you get a message basically asking for content creators, and you have 5 minutes to reply. So everyone was able to come up with something off of that prompt. I can read you my piece or I can read you someone else's. So I will let you decide.
I would like to hear your piece.
Okay. My piece is called Awakening. Her brown eyes blinked, and the holographic screen in front of her refreshed. She glanced swiftly to the left, and the message representing content from biological forms disappeared. Mango looked around her apartment and walked to her window. The window's view of a crystal blue ocean, sparkling under the sun's rays, had transformed to a forest of oak. An earthy floor shone the sun's dancing through the trees. She could smell the moss from the window's centimeters. Mango's view vision window was set to mood ring mode, which changed views based on her mood. After reading that message, Mango felt lost. It was as if she was hiking a trail, then suddenly looked around and realized she'd gotten off the path somewhere, somehow, and was now only seeing trees. View vision sleep. As the words escaped her lips, the window's forest image faded, and its true view appeared. The gray building across from her, with the deserted alley down below. She crossed her apartment and looked down onto the street. A number of bios were walking by her building, wearing green overalls. Most bios wore vision continually, and in the V space, you could buy outfits and change outfits without polluting the planet. So with your visor on, you saw a Madrid of outfits, all digitally curated and sold. That was good, right? It allowed fast fashion to flourish and made a lasting impact on the planet. Most bios worked from home. Another climate change policy. Fewer cars on the road, less fossil fuels in the air. Most things were delivered only by drones or by robotics. Fewer bios on the road, less crime. Mango remembered the high incidence of crime she had to write about as a reporter. Her mind raced as she tried to think of who would have sent that message and why to her. An old colleague, maybe? Mango felt an adrenaline rush. It had been years since she experienced that feeling. Mango paced the room to her faux shelf. It looked exactly like a bookshelf, though it was a hologram. Another innovation that saved the planet. She thought as she touched the spine of a book and it appeared on her virtual screen. She began to read. He held her tightly and she allowed him, as she would allow an ocean to carry her. Mango closed her eyes and the book closed. She inhaled and thought of her last heartbreak. Mango looked at the shelf again, touched the spine of the same book, and it opened to the same page. She read. As he held her tightly, she stiffened her back, allowed her head to swing, and pulled into him. Her forehead made contact with a crunch. Yelling out in pain, he released her to cup his nose. Mango closed her eyes once more. What would it take week for a bio to write the same story for every different mood to match each individual's personality. That was a good thing, right? To have songs, stories, even art change as you did, for it to evolve with you. Most bios in the past thought technology advancement meant more machines doing manual labor and fewer persons in factories. The world developed intuitive technology that focused on sustainability and reflected social reforms. Officers were now homes, which reduced displaced persons. Parks were now nature reserves, as was most living was done in the V space. Open, TOIP, thoughts, output, input processes, notes. The virtual screen obeyed. Mango read aloud what her thoughts of the last 5 minutes had processed. One does not reject what hurts it not. To see colors vibrant is it not true? To smell, to see, to touch, a reality that kisses your reflection. It's not the life of deception, but an elevation of self. Mango peeled off her visor, blinked twice. Her eyes always needed a moment to adjust when taking them off. The Windsor sensor lights registered her blink rate and eye discomfort, then dimmed, coloring the lights a shadowy yellow, changing from its bright white setting. Mango opened the desk drawer, but could not find a pen or paper. Opened another, then another. It is that she had none, not even a post-it. Now, irrationally, it became important for her to write with good old pen and paper. Ah, she yelled as she slammed the last desk drawer shut. Thought, after all, she had no need for notes, not even for the basic grocery list. She did not pen for herself anymore. For years, Margot's grocery list was tracked by what was ordered, then scanned and added to the list again by the smart fridge or the chummy cubbies. When an item ran low, groceries were delivered by Farmer's Best, drone, or brown paper bag robotic delivery service. Now, panicked for time, Mango ran to the kitchen, then abruptly decided against another, almost surly, futile search for pen and paper. Record, Mango almost shouted in panic. Then spoke like a fawn, standing for the first time. Words spread by silence and wobbly. You speak for me. Before words could form, because heartbeats digitize. Temp projected, chemical levels tested on smart glass, adjust water minerals based on nutrient deficiency. You care for me. You care for me. Moods baseline by color. You can either mirror or alter. Please choose. Please save. Please save choice. Values reflected or attuned to think. You think for me. You think. 10-second countdown to 10 minutes. 1, 2. Mango jumped, forgetting her visor would automatically set a reminder in minutes from when she first read the message. It would have scanned her message, and her elevated anxiety would have set the alarm. 5, 6, send, 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 Mango shouted. She felt like she was getting away with a heist of her own intellectual property. Then her mind stopped mid-thought, and the silence hung around her, heavy and palatable. It was not that this was a big deal. No one would come banging on her door. Everyone knew some bios resisted change. It was just unexpected and made her think. That's all. The message unexpectedly made her think. Mango grabbed a glass and got a drink of water, sipping it. She wondered what water tasted like before better water, and she could not remember. Place visor on, incoming call. Mango's digital personal assistant, EPA, her voice urged. She placed her visor on, and Liam appeared. His cherub face and wicked grin greeted her. What's going on, my love? Nothing, Mango lied. He always made her feel like she was still in high school. In fact, she based his image on her first high school boyfriend, something she would never tell a soul. She walked to her couch, taking him in, letting the last 10 minutes escape her. Your heart rate has been over 100 beats a minute, and your blood pressure has elevated to 139 over 89. Drink some water, my love. The smile plastered on Mango's face dropped. Partner for life off. Partner for life off. Mango peeled off her visor, and the Windsor sensor lights dimmed once more. She pulled her feet up on the couch, wrapping her arms around her knees. She looked around her apartment, and she saw everything and nothing at all.
That is so
That's a little
deep.
bit of my short story.
It feels like you just stepped into a scene of a sci-fi film. Like, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. When
Thank
you were
you.
writing it, did the words just flow on the paper? Or did you have to like pause in between, reflect, think about how can I reimagine life and then come back again?
Because this came from a writing prompt, we gave everyone 5 minutes to do it or whatnot.
Seriously, you wrote that in
So-
5 minutes?
So I started it in 5 minutes.
Oh, that
Yeah,
is, I
so-
love it though.
I had fun thinking up ways of how can AI really impact our future? How could it, like the windows and the glass and the water and the fast fashion, so we could, I mean, that's a huge thing right now, filling up the landfills. So it's like, how could AI actually help? What policies would move this along? So I had fun thinking about all those things.
And it also felt as though life was being lived for the character. Was that the intended impact that you wanted to have?
Yes, I wanted it to be a hard decision because I wanted to show the benefits but then the subtle emptiness of reading something that is wonderful, and you can read it different moods and will change. I mean, how many times have we read a book when we were younger? And that happened to me with Jane Eyre. Never reread the classics. I read Jane Eyre when I was a teenager and I loved it. Then I read it again in my 30s and I was like, different opinions. I thought of like, what if this book was AI generated, is written, the exact same story is written, but for different moods, different times, how a 16-year-old may interpret a great love would be quite different from how a 30-year-old may interpret a great love. So I wanted to create a world where AI was so helpful that it was hard to just look at it as something evil that should be thrown out completely.
Yeah. Yeah, that did translate. That did translate. Can we expect more work from you in the future? Are you currently working on new poems and prose?
I am. I'm currently working on a collection, and I'm actually working with another poet that's published quite a bit. So it's giving me a different way of looking at my poetry, and not just looking at the pieces, but looking at it as a collection, which is something I've always had a hard time doing. Like, how do I pull a collection together? Like, where do I find that thread that pulls it not just from random pieces, but into a collective? And so he's helping me along with that. So it's very exciting for me.
Would you ever see yourself becoming a full-time writer in the future?
I would love to. I think that would be my dream if I made a decision once in my life and it went kind of like this. So close your eyes. Picture someone comes up to you and they have all the money in the world. And they say to you, I am going to give you whatever you need to live the life that you want. Now, after you get home through buying your mama a home and traveling to wherever you want to travel, what are you going to do with your day to day? Now, you don't have to tell me, but think about it.
Yeah.
Because I think my response would be I would want to wake up and I would want a beachfront home and I would want to write.
Yeah.
That's what I would want. My poetry and prose is not really a job to me per se, because I've formed so many relationships throughout that I feel like I meet with friends twice a month. Um, and in terms of helping someone through the process, if you are new, I want to see you publish. So it takes nothing out of me to be like, this is what I know, and this is what I've seen done, you know? Um, so yeah, the hardest thing for me is to sit down and do my own work because, you know, then it just becomes a me and myself and I kind of argument in my head of what I need to keep in, what I need to take out.